And good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I am your host, Josh Engel. Today is Friday, September 15th, and our guest in the studio today with the Recovery Spot of West Georgia. We have Dan Dixon and Ben Lambert, both board members with the Recovery Spot of West Georgia. Today we're going to be chatting about the upcoming event, Mobilize Recovery 2023. It's going to be happening September 20th. That's next Wednesday at the Carrollton Amp from 11 to 1 p.m. There is a lot to talk about. It's going to be a very stacked event, so to speak. So we're going to be talking all about that and a lot more. Now, we are not only, of course, on the radio this morning, but we are also live streaming on our WLBB Facebook page. So if you have any questions or comments for our guest, any questions about the event or the organization, feel free to type them in, and I'd be more than happy to read them out to our guests. First, let's start with a little bit of bios. I'd love to hear about a bit about each of you. Share as much as you would like. Let's start with Ben. Ben, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having us. This is a pleasure to be on here, and we appreciate the opportunity. My name is Ben Lambert. I am from Carrollton, Georgia, born and raised, and work here in Carrollton, Georgia in the insurance industry. And, started with the Recovery Spot of West Georgia on the board as a volunteer member September of, I guess we started planning in July of 2022. Yeah. And grand opening September 2022. And person that, recovery and mental health are something near and dear to my heart. So, definitely something that I like to be a part of. And, so just happy to be here.
Awesome. And thank you for the work you put into it. It's something we were talking about before the show, like these proactive steps to better our community and to try to help younger generations beneath us who are destined to make the same mistakes that folks we know and have encountered have dealt with. Universal truths, things that we all have to overcome. Dan, let's throw it over to you, man. Tell us as much as you would like, a bit about yourself.
I always tell them, be careful telling me to do that.
Well, I want it all.
I'm Dan Dixon, born and raised here in Carrollton. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means for me, it's been 10 and a half years since I've had the need to use anything to change my mind, to change the way I think, feel, act, or do things. And so I work in recovery field because recovery has given me everything I ever dreamed of, everything I ever thought I could dream of. And I love to be able to work in this field. And so, I'm born and raised here in Carrollton, and I work at Coweta Forest out in Noonan, and then I'm also part of the board here at the Recovery Spot of West Georgia. So I got a lot, but thank you. That sounds about right.
Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. Well, I think that this, I know that when you have organizations like this, there are stories behind these and the things that people have to encounter, but also overcome. Right. And I love seeing this positive outcome, an organization like this come together. So tell us about the organization, and feel free to both chime in. About the organization, the Recovery Spot of West Georgia.
Yeah. So the Recovery Spot of West Georgia is an RCO, and an RCO is a recovery community outreach. Yep. And from my understanding, we are the first in Carrollton, the first RCO in Carrollton. The RCO is located at 118 South White Street. For most of you out there, that means nothing, me included, but that is the old Carrollton Middle School. It also is referred to as the Stallings Building, so it's near downtown area. Yeah. And so Dan, you want to kind of go into a little bit more of what an RCO is? Yeah,
so an RCO is a recovery community organization. We've also been called ARSC, which is Addiction Recovery Support Center. So we're kind of a one-stop shop for anything that involves around addiction/recovery. I think what we learned through the years is that we had all this stuff around addiction, and we weren't doing such a good job around people in recovery. And so at this place, we have people who work there who are in long-term recovery themselves. We have a space to be able to help people, whether it's for their job resumes, whether it's for they're looking to just come. Maybe sometimes people just need a safe place to be for that day. And they're like, I don't want to use today, but I want to, and they can come in, sit down, have a cup of coffee, hang out with us. We also have roughly, I think we have around 7 to 10 meetings a week right now. Yep. We're growing, so we're getting more as they can. So of all different formats, so AA, NA, all kinds of different other formats as well. NAMI has a place up in there, some mental health. And then there's so many avenues that can be done for what we kind of have going on there right now.
Absolutely. So you say the organization formed in 2022.
Yep.
So how is the? I mean, you mentioned that you're continuing to grow. How has this experience been? I mean, I know that it had to be anxiety inducing to start to really put this out there and make it happen. The whole step, like all the steps involved. What's the experience been like since making it real?
Yeah, so with our grand opening in September of 2022, it was at the Stallings building, the 118 South White Street building. At that event, we had just overwhelmingly positive support. We had
so much support.
It was awesome. We had Mayor of Carrollton, Judge Betty Kaysen, and Commissioner of the Boards of Commissioners, Michelle Morgan, both kind of kicked it off, and that just kind of shows you the support that we had from Carrollton, Carroll County, our community. And I'd say there were over 100 people there.
Easily.
It was at the auditorium there. So, the grand opening kind of set our way. Yeah, it was pretty, it was a little anxious before we got started.
Yeah, I think it was good, too. Like, it was really, I think we all, when we started it, we were like, oh, this is going to be this great, thing. And we were all still kind of trying to really figure out and wrap our heads around what was really going to happen a year or later from there. And I enjoy our board meetings. Like, I love getting to go to our board meetings and hang out and talk. The conversations we have are impactful conversations for myself, because I know what we're trying to do is make an impact for our community. And so, yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's been a really good ride, just kind of getting to sit with each other and learn the backgrounds of it. I knew of Ben, but I didn't know Ben. And so I've got a chance to know him along with the rest of our board as well.
Right.
So the mobilized recovery, was this something you have done before?
No, we haven't, but it has been going on for a couple of years now.
Excellent.
Yeah, so right now, I think the bus is going around the state of Georgia, and it's actually a bus. It pulls up. It's going to pull up at the AMP in Carrollton. It's a big bus. They pull up. We do the event, and then they move on to the next city. So we actually have another board member who went to the event in Valdosta, I'd say about a week ago, and over 100 people there, and it was later in the evening. So it's all across Georgia.
Awesome. Well, the time is 8:37. We're going to take our first commercial break. But when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the Recovery Spot of West Georgia, board members Dan Dixon and Ben Lambert, as we chat about the Mobilized Recovery Event 2023 coming up next Wednesday, September 20th at the Carrollton AMP from 11 to 1 p.m. Again, you're listening to Community Voice, brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
The customized academic scholar journey at Oak Mountain Academy is individually designed to provide students with a personalized, clearly defined academic track that earns the student a series of distinctions upon graduation. This journey enables academically driven students to pursue a focused, rigorous course of study personalized to their wants and desires. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
And we're back to Community Voice. Today is Friday, September 15th. I'm your host, Josh Engel. And today we're chatting with the Recovery Spot of West Georgia, board members Dan Dixon and Ben Lambert, as we chat about the upcoming event, Mobilized Recovery 2023. It's going to be September 20th at the Carrollton AMP from 11 to 1 p.m. Just a reminder for those tuning in, we are also live streaming on our WLBB Facebook page. I see some folks streaming in, watching right now. Shout out to Tim Tenney. I see he's streaming. He's watching the show. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to throw those in. I'd be more than happy to read them out to our guest, whether it be about the organization or the event itself. feel free. We love this dialogue, so we'll keep the conversation going. So let's talk about the event. This is the first time the Recovery Spot of West Georgia has had the opportunity to partner with Mobilized Recovery. First and foremost, let's just talk about what Mobilized Recovery is. Ben touched on it. It being a traveling show. You know what I mean, like a traveling demonstration with resources for the communities. If you could expand on that a bit, and then we'll talk about the event itself.
Yeah, so Mobilized Recovery is partnered with DBHDD. So the Department
of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities.
There you go. I knew I would stumble on it again. I talked about that before, but
I'm glad somebody wrote it down.
Oh yeah, I wrote it down because I was going to stumble too. No doubt.
They are going from city to city, and they are bringing this bus. It's huge. It's beautiful. It's got all the cities they're stopping at on it. When the bus comes through, everyone can sign it that comes up to the event, which is really cool. But we have speakers from the local area, so that's kind of the big thing. They want to get speakers from the local area. We'll have a proclamation read during that time, and then Carrollton, just so you know, like our city is amazing. We had a huge turnout for speakers. Like I was in shock of how many people were like, yeah, we want to be a part of that. Yes, we're cool. We want to come. And so we've got like our superintendents, we've got the colleges represented, we've got our legal department represented well, our city and county with that. We've got our courts represented. I feel like I could go on and on and on of the amount of support that came out, because it's really, when you start getting into finding speakers and you're coordinating times and it's the middle of the day, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, are we really going to find enough people? And Carrollton came out just in waves, and I'm so proud of our city and how open they were to say, hey, we want to be a part of sharing the message of hope and recovery with our city. And so we'll have the speakers. They have live Narcan training going on as well. They'll have a band there, a reggae band that's going to be playing kind of throughout the time. It's at the Amp on the square. We'll also have like free food.
Oh yeah.
If you want to talk about the food vendors that are coming out.
Yeah, so we'll have food and drinks from our community partners, and just huge thank you to all these. We have the Irish Bread Pub. We have Leopoldo's and Chip's Burger Bar. All three are providing food and drinks for the event. Yeah. And I think we're expecting to have at least 300 meals thereabout for people to come by and pick up.
Yeah,
that's huge. Yeah, huge. And the only thing that can make a great event better is free food.
That's right.
Always.
That's everybody loves free food.
And reggae music.
Reggae music.
Yeah, mix that in there as well.
That's a nice touch. That's awesome. That's great.
So it's at the Amp. It's next Wednesday from 11 to 1. And then it's bring your kids out. If you can't figure out where you need to put your kids, like bring your kids out to the celebration. Bring your pets. Like the city was so nice to let us come in and use the Amp. Like it's one of my favorite spots that we built in the city. And we asked, and they were like, yeah, that's a great idea.
That's totally why we have this.
Yes, like there was no pushback at all. Everybody has been so nice and so open to this thing taking place.
Shout out to the city and county government.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. So I think that's a great point that you're hitting. It's not like the conversations are going to be so somber,
right,
or difficult that kids couldn't be involved. It is a family-friendly event.
Yeah, and I, for some reason, they asked me to be the keynote speaker, which I thought was kind of funny. I was like, you have all these great people, and you're asking me, which for me, I'm really honored and I'm really humbled that I get a chance to continue to share my story of and present the message of recovery and how we can and do recover. And I think that's a huge piece to make sure we put in place in our city that you can and we do recover. And I think that's just an amazing message to spread to our community.
And your story, your personal story, is incredibly powerful. And this will be an opportunity for folks to get to hear that story in its entirety.
Well, about 10 minutes of it. But I'll get as much as I can out there.
Dig it.
Yeah, we had to crunch down on the time.
That's right. That's right.
Create the condensed version.
That's correct.
And I know, as far as having the speakers out, we have to send in, our expected speaker list, and the people that are co-hosting the event with us were like, guys, this is amazing. I don't think we've ever seen this much support.
Yes.
We actually had to, condense it down, unfortunately, but with, times time's a thing, and we actually had to condense it down. That's right.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned all the people that are going to be there helping us present. There's, I want to say, 5 or 6 pastors.
Yep.
In the area that are coming to support it as well. So I think the whole idea, like Dan touched on, is just to show people that, guys, recovery is possible. And
right.
I would say 10, 15 years ago, this wasn't really talked about. So this is just to bring awareness to, this is possible. It's not a necessarily terrible thing. You're not a bad person. Recovery is possible. And to hear these stories, to hear Dan's keynote speech, and to see the support, it may help 1 or 2 or maybe 100 people to realize that, hey, I can do something about this issue, and I can get better. And that's the whole idea. And to hear examples of that's what really pushes people. Really pushes people to want to do something about it. So that's, in my mind, that's the whole idea behind the event.
To really put that heartfelt story out there. I mean, and I appreciate that you took the time to specify that, this isn't something, evil to talk about. It's like my therapist, I always love the way she says this. Like, I'll always speak of things as either good or bad. And she's like, listen, it doesn't have to be good or bad. It doesn't have to be black and white thinking. It is simply, does it limit you or does it not limit you? Yeah. And I love, your point earlier, basically your addiction was standing in the way of everything you could have ever dreamed of hoping to accomplish and to be. And here you are. You're making it real. It was it's a limiting component of life. Yeah. But this is something that you've overcome, and that you're trying to help the rest of the folks in the community as well as the community partners, because that is huge. I mean, so again, this bus goes all over the state of Georgia, and they have not seen the kind of support that they've seen in this area.
Yeah. Yeah,
man,
it's
we're
exciting.
Very lucky. Like,
it's exciting.
We're blessed. We're blessed with a very supportive community.
That's right. Very much so.
I mean, a number of nonprofits out there trying to do good work.
Yeah.
So again, we're talking with a Recovery Spot of West Georgia board members Dan Dixon and Ben Lambert. If you're just tuning in, be sure to know we are live streaming on our WLBB Facebook page. If you have any questions or comments, I did want to touch on this for a second. Just we have organizations, of course, like the Recovery Spot of West Georgia, that are trying to help people turn their lives around, to overcome anything that they're battling, that they're dealt with. I mean, is this something that you see as, you mentioned 10 years ago, folks didn't really talk about this. Right. I mean, can we speak a bit to the state of addiction in this part of the state? I mean, in this part of the world, I imagine, as with anywhere, it's probably a lot more widespread than people realize, which speaks to the need of an event like this.
I think so, and I'm not going to give too much of my speech away for next week, but I know, so I get numbers from the Department of Public Health, and so Carroll County roughly stayed in the top 5 of overdoses for 2022, almost the entire year. In fact, they led it 1 or 2 months. Well, I have to go get those numbers again, and that's just the ones that we know of. That's just the ones that are reported, like people actually went to the hospital, and that was like confirmed. I think in our area, we're seeing addiction rise at numbers like we've never really seen. And I think the biggest piece in understanding with the Recovery Spot is that we can send people to rehabs. We can, we don't really have a ton of them here. We have a couple. But at the end of the day, we want those people to come back to our city. And we want them to have a place like the Recovery Spot where they can come and connect and start that pathway into what their recovery looks like. And so that's why we get to sit in that space and say, how can we help you overcome barriers to get you where you want to go? While my dreams came true, I did have some people along the way. We know that's not true for everybody, but how can we help you overcome the next barrier just for today? How can we help you go through this process of today? And so, yeah, the addiction is rampant right now. I think the fentanyl crisis is only making it worse. And I think now that we've got xylazine coming in play a little bit more, I think it's only getting much worse. And so it's good that we have a community that really supports, like, hey, we want to put this place here and we want to see people thrive, because at the end of the day, we want people to get to a point where they become we call them working class citizens, even though that's not really what I feel like I'm doing. But I am that in my city. I'm a contributing member of society again. I never, ever thought that was going to be something I would do.
You're not a drone,
Right.
You hear that, it's just like, oh, you're just a cog in the machine. Mm-hmm. You're not. You are a functioning member of society, but furthermore, you're everything you wanted to be.
That's correct. And I get to work in a field that I love, and it doesn't feel like work. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Time is 8:49. We're going to take our second commercial break. But when we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with the Recovery Spot of West Georgia board members, Dan Dixon and Ben Lambert, as we chat about the upcoming Mobilize Recovery event. It's going to be September 20th at the Carrollton Amp from 11 to 1 p.m. Community Voice, brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
The World Language Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined, curriculum-based track to acquire essential knowledge and skills for success in biliteracy fields of study. The successful completion of this journey provides colleges with a method to recognize a rigorous foreign language immersion experience for all students at Oak Mountain Academy. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
And we're back to Community Voice. Today is Friday, September 15th. If you're just tuning in, today we are chatting with our special guests from the Recovery Spot of West Georgia, board members Dan Dixon and Ben Lambert. Oh, and I'm your host, Josh Engel. I didn't throw that out there. We are live streaming today on our WLBB Facebook page. So if you have any last-minute questions or comments for our guest, feel free to throw those in. I know sometimes folks won't put them in until after the show's over.
Sure.
But, of course, I imagine our friends Dan and Ben would be happy to jump back in and answer questions that folks may have.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, we've been chatting about the Mobilize Recovery event. It's September 20th, the Carrollton Amp, 11 to 1 p.m., a bus full of resources and demonstrations to bring awareness to the issues of addiction that are affecting communities all across the state, all across the country and world. Of course, the Recovery Spot of West Georgia has been doing great work to try to help curb that issue. So in the time we have left, I know you mentioned that you had there are a lot of demonstrations, a lot of partners. You mentioned that the crisis response team would be on site. Could you talk a bit about that?
So, the crisis response team, we've just been focusing on the Recovery Spot of West Georgia, and we're actually an extension of Carroll County Mental Health Advocates. So shout out to CMHA. Without CMHA, none of this would be possible. They're the reason we're here. So huge shout out to them. So the crisis response team's really doing that boots on the ground type work where, back in the past, if somebody was, having a mental health crisis, really all that was known to do is just to take that individual to jail. Thankfully now we have the crisis response team where, it's an unmarked police car essentially with with people who are licensed and able to help those people get off of come down from a mental health crisis and get them to a safer place essentially. So that's some of the work that's done not by the Recovery Spot of West Georgia, but we're huge proponents of it, and that ties into afterwards the Recovery Spot of West Georgia offers a place where those individuals can come to hopefully live in recovery. Right. So I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, a great resource that a lot of communities don't have.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
I mean, no weapons, an unmarked vehicle. They're not there to escalate the situation.
A licensed therapist.
Licensed therapist.
Yeah, in the process too. And I think too, we're super grateful for CMHA. They let us use their building. Mm-hmm. So all our meetings take place in there too at the Tracy Stallings building. All our board meetings take place in there. Jody and her team are just so they work so hard on helping the stuff that we don't even get to see a lot of times. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, we have this, and this for you. And we're like, okay, well, we didn't even think to have that done. And we're grateful that they get all that work done for us.
Shout out to Jody Goodman.
That's right. That's right. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about, we have a lot of, the other cool thing with this event is that we'll have some vendors on site as well. So right there around the app, along with the food and the concert and the speakers, we'll have some different local vendors. So like Willowbrook's going to be there with a table, Black Bear, which is based up in North Georgia. I mean, I have a huge list, and so I know I'm leaving out a lot of people, but we are so thankful for the amount of support. I mean, I think we actually hit our max of the amount of vendors we could allow. We didn't have the space. And so we were like, okay, this is all we can take. And everyone got it done early, which is also great, because usually people drag their feet when it comes to kind of getting
called
that
the
done.
day of.
That's right.
Yeah. You still got some boot spots available.
Yeah, people might call it a day. But anyway, so we're so grateful for just the amount of people that kind of set up for that.
I mean, it's great to have partners like Tanner's, Willowbrook, folks out there. So these vendors they'll have tables set up.
They'll have
materials.
tables. Yep, tables set up. They'll probably give out some swag, knowing how most of those places kind of operate. And then you'll have people that'll, manning the table that can help if you have questions about their program, that can be there to answer those questions as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So we only have about 4 minutes left. I did want to be sure to hit where folks can learn more, call to action. But before we do, if you could give us one more quick recap of what folks can expect on the day, September 20th, 11 to 1 p.m. at the Carrollton Amp.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess to start it off, it will be hearing from community, just community people, community leaders. We'll be out at the amp, kind of kicking it off, and then people from the city, the county, also pastors. We got Dan; he's going to be out there giving about a 10-minute testimony, if we want to call it that. And yeah, just lots of community leaders, lots of support, and also a reggae band.
Yep.
Can't forget the reggae band. We'll be playing some music. There'll be food provided. So get there early. There's a limited amount of food. So get there early so you can get as much as you want. And yeah, so that's pretty much the event in a nutshell.
So it's about 300 meals provided by
That's right.
Leopoldo's, Chip's Burger Bar.
Yep.
And what was
The Irish Bread Pub.
Irish Bread
The
Pub.
Irish Bread Pub. Yep.
Shout out. That's out to all the restaurants there downtown that stepped up to make this happen. So where can folks keep up with the Recovery Spot of West Georgia, or just get more information about this event?
Yeah. So obviously there's the Mobilized Recovery, I think it's .org. They can go check that out and kind of see where the bus is moving around right now. We have our Facebook page for the Recovery Spot of West Georgia. We also have an Instagram page. I'd also encourage, if you see some things kind of getting shared out, all our board members tend to share a lot of that stuff too. And so you can always kind of follow us, because we're always going to be sharing the things as well. So I think there's a lot of different ways to kind of see what all is going on. So don't ever come on, follow us. We'd love to have you on.
Absolutely. Well, we only have about a minute and a half left. Any final words that you'd like to give our community?
Hope to see everybody out on the 20th, 11 a.m. at the amp. Free food.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
And I will say it again to reiterate, I am very thankful for our community. I cannot, I think Ben said it best. Years ago, this was not a norm. This was not something that most people were like, hey, we, go talk about that somewhere else. Our city and county were like, let's do this. And I can't speak, enough about it.
That is a major blessing.
Yeah.
To not only, one, to be able to fill out the vendors list immediately, because everybody wants to participate with us.
Yeah.
But to have that support from both, the city and the county government.
And we're thankful for WLBB for having us.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
That's
there
right.
you go. That's right.
Thank you, guys.
One love. Make sure the
That's
reggae
right.
band sing a song about us. We got a comment in right before the end here. Leslie Smith McPherson, good information. Thank you.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Leslie.
Well, appreciate it, Leslie, and thank you to everyone that has been tuning in. We'll see you next time.